I have been led astray by my own thoughts ever since I started. Ever since. It's not every since, you dumb boy. Ever since I started trying to get this little video down. My next video was supposed to be a continuation of the story I was telling you about my early adulthood in Lexington, Kentucky, and it was 1984. So I'm gonna break that down as much as I can right here. So I was hired in 82, and I've talked a lot. Also, I'm going to tell you, 5 years of my life was spent at this institution at this business, and it was, when I look back on it, it was one of the biggest, most fun chunks of my career. I had big chunks of fun here and there, and in between, little bits of not fun. So anyway, that was a big chunk of fun, all in all. But, I was hired in 82, and I've told you how great that felt and how hard I worked and everything. But I did not tell you that for the first year and a half that I was there, I always felt like I was on the verge of being fired. Now, I did misbehave. I agree. I did misbehave. But I was also, pouring my heart into it, right? And I was also 20 and a human being and fallible. So I did make mistakes, and there were times when I actually got caught sloughing off, right? I don't know, procrastination. That's supposed to be a response to trauma, they're saying now. But anyway, I know that I was so proud of my job and that I would tense up every time. I lived downtown, so I would always walk to work when I worked down there, and every time I would tense up before I went into that building because I always felt like I really looked into this and I probably don't deserve it. And I always felt like I was going to get fired. Now, I'm going to say I'm not blaming this on anyone because everybody I knew at Embry's was doing the best damn job they could do. There were a couple of people, like this one girl who was like doing the biggest shoplifting scam thing you ever saw. That's a whole other story, honey. I might have to illustrate that one because that was, woo! That was wild. Anyway, I always felt like, and the thing was, the managers loved me. Mr. Embry seemed to love me. The buyers really liked me. I got along with everybody, but my immediate boss was the advertising director. And I'm going to tell you something. She was very professional. She's very lovely, beautiful, in fact, smart. And I'm just going to put this out there, and I don't mean to say anything or hurt anything. We are estranged, and I wish her well all the time. And I always wish that I had been a more generous friend to her because she is a winner, and she's wonderful and shiny. Let's just say that. But we just weren't meant to be wonderful and shiny together. It didn't work. But here, okay, I'm going to say this. This is where that came from. When I was interviewed the day that I went to Lexington and was formally interviewed and offered the position and met with the ad director and met with Mr. Embry twice, and then he said, we are offering you this job, but I want you to know that the job, I like to hire people for 2 or 3 jobs if I can. So we're offering you the position of visual merchandising director for all stores, and you'd be responsible for all of the store windows being changed once a week. So you would have to go to Louisville. You don't have to go to Bowling Green. You might have to go to Bowling Green 2 or 3 times a year, maybe 4 times a year, just to see if they're on track. But we don't expect you to go to Bowling Green once a week to do the windows. But next to that, you will be the fashion illustrator, and you will have to be downtown probably 2 days a week at the headquarters here in an office, and you'll be illustrating our print ads and working directly under the our ad director, who will be your immediate supervisor, your immediate superior. I'm like, I'm totally cool with that. I'm totally down with it. And he said, okay. And then third, it's actually the position of being the assistant to our ad director. And she is a lovely girl. And I said, oh, it's wonderful. That sounds so cool to be an assistant ad director. And he said, well, here's the thing. She is absolutely lovely and on all counts. She's smart. She's energetic. We love her. She's just not imaginative. You are imaginative. And if you are her assistant, not only can you think up cool stuff for our ad campaigns, but and share them with her, but we would really like it if you kind of made it seem like they were her ideas. And I was going, yay, yay, yay. And just when he said that, in my mind and in my heart, it just went click. I'm a bad seeker of justice. I always, in my whole life, got more in trouble for seeking justice than just letting injustice happen and looking away from it. So, I don't know, it just felt unjust to me. So, instead of saying, I can't really do that, or really committing to it with my heart, just like I said, something shut down. So, that poor lady, okay, I was 20, she was like 23, she was just a child too. I was passive-aggressive to her the rest of the time that I was there. I was very passive-aggressive. I didn't want to do this, but it was just something inside me. You know, if I was really busy working, okay, I'm making gingerbread houses for Christmas and thinking of this, and here's what we're going to do. I'm going to make this dress out of plastic and put it on the mantle. And then to have her come in and go, hey, I'm sorry to bother you. Do you think maybe that in the next few days that you could stop doing what you're doing and cut out all of the newspaper printouts that I have piled up here and apply them with a really sticky, messy glue into a big scrapbook so that I will have this scrapbook that's a record of all the beautiful, successful things that I do? And I was like, sure I will. But it was always like, I'm sorry they called me from the store. Somebody's taking something out of the window. I got to get out there and correct that. They've destroyed the window. I've got to... And, you know, go on for days. And she'd go, what about that? And I'd say, okay, well, I think I did that maybe 3 times. It was horrendous little job. You know what? Whatever. I thought I had been hired for executive. That's what's in your brain. You went to school for something. You're like, you're the director of this, and you're the director of this, and your assistant. So you've got an office at the corporate headquarters. It's your own office. You're kind of an executive. That shit's stupid now. It's just totally stupid, and I hate the whole class system. And since the day I struck out on my own, there's been no class system in what I do. I mean, it's like in those instances here in Hollywood where you're not supposed to talk to the customer. Honey, I always talk to the customer. Now, I don't go, I'm going to talk to them anyway. But, you know, they'd walk in and I'd be performing a magic act and they'd go, oh my God, you're fabulous. What's your name? And I'd be like, I'm Sammy Beam. And then we move on. So anyway, so I'm still there. And like, so I would be passive aggressive. And then she would say, I'm sorry, but you really, really let me down. You let me down really, really bad, and I'm going to have to report you and ask Mr. Embry to fire you. And I'd be like, oh, please don't. And she'd be like, well, are you going to shape up? And I'm like, I promise I'll shape up. I love my job. I don't want to lose my job. And I didn't, but I wasn't loving the actual work of my job. I was loving the work of my job when I was actually drawing. I was loving the work of my job when I was actually creating windows and when I was making fashion choices. I did not like my job when I was like, I'm sorry, but like the shitty little underling. Just like, you know, I had this idea. And I was, okay, I'm going to admit something because it's funny. And I hope this doesn't get to her because I really love this person. She's done a beautiful job with her life. I love who she turned out to be. And I'm never going to even tell any of you who she was if you don't already know. Okay? And I'm not blaming anything on her. I'm blaming everything on me. I'm blaming it on me and my weird inner workings and stuff. Because it could have worked out just great. So I'm there and it's like October. I'm going to say it's October and we're starting to think thoughts about the upcoming Christmas season. So my boss says, okay, I want to talk to you about, I had this idea. I want to just run it by you, see what you think. I was thinking, you know, for our Christmas mailer, like a catalog, actually, because it'll have, like, maybe 20 items on it. So it'll be kind of like a catalog, maybe like a pamphlet or whatever. And I was thinking, see, I was studying, and I found out that back in the olden times, they used to call catalogs, mail order catalogs, they used to call them wish books. And I said, uh-huh. And she said, so that's what I think I'm going to present at the meeting. I think that's it. I think that should be our theme. Embry's Wish Book. And I said, that's a great idea. You know where that went, right? You know where that went. And I could have stopped that, but I didn't stop it. And it felt really good at the time because she went in and said, so I've got this great idea. We'll call it a wish book. And everyone went, yeah, it's a great idea. Sears had it 125 years ago and they've done it every year. Anyway, that first Christmas, our big ad campaign, like, it was like, oh, think it's got to be. And it was like, I'll never forget. It was like, I've got it. Delight in giving, relish in receiving. That was our first Christmas thing, and for some reason I had to do all this little Art Nouveau doodle stuff. But I'm gonna tell you what we did, really super cool, because I didn't get to. They did hire this couple that I adore. First time I laid eyes on them, I thought, I got to get you into my life, because they just. At the time, they were everything I wanted to be. And their names were Lee and Janet. And he was an ace photographer. And she was an ace advertiser. And we hired them, or my boss hired them, to do our Christmas mailer, that first Christmas. And I had to just, it's like, can you take this to their apartment on West 3rd Street, please, and drop it off? Don't make eye contact. Just drop it. And so of course I went to their apartment and dropped something off and went, oh God, tell me about this lamp. Oh my God. Janet, do you wear those suede 4-inch pumps around the house every day? Do you always just dress like Catherine Deneuve in The Hunger when you're here in your house? Fabulous people, and they did the most gorgeous job. And you know what? I wasn't a bit jealous, and in the end, it said such encouraging things to me. It meant a lot when you're young. To have somebody who really, really impresses you say that you are impressive, win-win. So anyway, I went through the first year and a half thinking that I was going to get fired every day. And I was threatened several times. And every time Mr. Henry would say, yeah, no. Because he liked what I did. And you know what? When you weighed anything against anyway, I was producing what he hired me to produce. I could not be her assistant, and they realized that very quick. Nor could I do all of the stores. Nor could I do all of the stores in 3 days a week, every week, and then be downtown 2 days. No, it didn't work. So we finally found a place where it worked better. But here's the thing that made it really work better. Mr. Embry always gave his young people 2 or 3 jobs to do if he could, and it was very sensible. And he wouldn't fire you if you couldn't do all 3. It's with me, when he realized it was a bit much, we'll figure out how to deal with that. So here's the thing. He had to juggle things. To bring me to Lexington full-time, he had to juggle other people's lives. So the young lady that was doing the windows at Embry's in Lexington, she was the acting visual merchandising director, but it was only a part-time position. She did the windows, which she loved doing. She was a very creative and smart person. But she was also the assistant manager of the Innovations store, which was like our junior store. So to appease her, when Mr. Embry brought me in, obviously I was going to take her job as the visual merchandising director, but it was going to be a different thing. It was going to be about the whole company instead of just, she had been there, but she lived there and she worked there and she wasn't full time, but she would go downtown and she would keep up with the fixture stuff. She would ship props out to you. You call and say, Sherry, I don't have any props. She'd ship you stuff. You put it on the truck and come to you. Anyway, we had a decent working relationship when I was part-time. But they brought me in full-time, and that just got... And so anyway, she was like, well, I love working here, and, I'll go with this for a while. And I think he might have even told her, I'm really just doing this to preserve you for the future because you've got a big future with us. And she did. She had a good future with them. So the thing was, they brought me in, and, she had such grace. And I have to say, I had grace, too, because... no attitude. And, I had taken her job, and then I would come in her store and do what was her job in front of her 1 day a week. And then I was overworked, so I said, I'm overworked, and I can't just do everything every time. And so they said, well, try to muddle through, and here's the deal. Make sure you get all the main windows in the main store done, and if the other stores, if you just can't do it, ask the managers, because they're all skilled. They really don't have to do anything there with props. They can just change the merchandise and do it well. So especially Sherry. Ask Sherry. Well, I had to do it, and you could tell she was like, like that, but she did it. She did it for like, honestly, I think she did it for like a year and a half. I don't mean I did it every week, but at one point there, and we got along. I'm not saying we were best friends, but she and I got along. And I said, "Oh, Sherry, I'm so overworked, and I'm so sorry. Could you please just change the man? I don't care what. Could you just change those today? Because I can't. I got to get downtown." And she said, "I'm sorry, but I'm not going to do that anymore." And I said, "Oh, really?" And she said, "Yeah, I'm sorry. It kind of hurts my soul because, you know, that was my job, and I know, and I respect you, and it became your job, and my job is to be manager here, but it's not to do the windows. So I'm sorry." I'm not going to do that for you anymore. Maybe somebody else can, but I'm not going to do it. And I absolutely got it. There was no animosity between us. I mean, if there was, that's as hot as it got. Well, it wasn't too much longer after that one day I'm working downtown in my office on something, and the elevator door opens up, and I could see it from my office, and Mr. Embry and Sherry, this girl I'm telling you about, they step off and walk into my office. They're both beaming, smiling, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm about to get the sack or something. I don't know." And Mr. Embry says, "Sammy, I just want to, this is very simple. I'm just going to say this and then leave you two to your own devices. I'm sure you'll have a lot to talk about. Sammy, meet your new boss, Sherry Barker." You know what? I had no knee-jerk response whatsoever. I not for one second felt threatened. I just said, "Oh my God, that's brilliant. That's fucking brilliant." Then she and I just talked all day about what we were going to do and how it was. And the first thing she said was, "Look, I know in the hierarchy that I am considered your boss, but I never ever intend to be your boss or to step on your toes creatively. Actually, I just went to Mr. Embry and said, I feel wasted. I am a married woman with a degree in interior design, and I think I could do more for this company than what I'm doing as your little junior store manager." And he agreed, and it just happened that, unbeknownst to me, we were about to go through some really big renovations on our stores, both in Louisville and Lexington, and I would not have been able to keep up with that. They would hire a big commercial design firm to come in and do it, a company that was just architects and people who designed stores. But Sherry had her degree and knew all of the lingo and knew what to do, and she could be the liaison between those out-of-town architects who came to town like 2 times a year. She could get the job done, and she did. She worked very hard, but she would also be doing all of the stuff that she loved, which was organizing and making sure that the fixtures got where, and maybe there was a new fixture that we needed to start. I was never interested in that. I just liked beauty, clothes, beauty, clothes, beauty, clothes, beauty, clothes. I hated rounders, waterfalls, little glass shelves up high. I hated that part. I hated signage. I hated like, "Oh, you've got to hang a big foam core St. John sign up over the St. John section." I didn't do a good job because I was busy doing pretty stuff. My windows were exquisite. Now, I have other friends who were also in the game at the same time. Their windows were also exquisite. I am not comparing. I'm just saying we were all lucky to get in on that tail end of the beautiful, beautiful store windows and beautiful, beautiful. They're beautiful stores now, but I mean, it wasn't the golden age of the window, but we had formal show windows where you could actually make a big statement, tell a story, do things. And I absolutely adored that. But when Sherry and I got together, honey, well-oiled machine. So she was doing her 2 jobs, and I was doing my 2 jobs, but we were together in the same office. So I always did my sketches there. Well, she'd be on the phone conducting her buyer work, and she did not have an assistant because they just, cosmetic buyer doesn't need an assistant, and I wasn't her assistant at that. But anyway, and she didn't ever butt into like what I was. If I was illustrating something, and because we were very creative together, she might go, "Oh God, you know what'd be good? What if you gave her some big red lips?" And I'd say, "Okay." Anyway, but we just had a good time, and we couldn't wait to get to work every day. We would laugh the first half hour of work every day. We would just laugh, but then we would get super creative and figure out what we were going to do. And maybe off base a few times. She was never like, no, that sucks. But she would say, can we do? So I think that she was really responsible for me upping my taste level because I was an eccentric young artist. I did not wear fashion. I wore costumes. I did not. My mannequins were exquisite, but they were costumed. Okay, they were costumed. I always did a little something extra. Don't just put that on there and make them anyway. We did. It was so fun because she said, I'm going to take care of this and you take care of that. And we'll only overlap when it's necessary or we want to. And she said, so I'm so happy with your windows and everything you do. And your illustrations are none of mine. I love your windows. I love what you do. But I would also like to be involved in, you don't have to be involved in I might ask you to help me sometime with the stuff about the merchandising and the equipment and all that stuff, but I'm not going to really harass you over that much. But I will ask that I do get in on some of the creativity because I want to get in on like the look. And I was like, perfect, because she had a much better grasp of like the look of the store. My look was what the models. My look was what the windows looked like. That was me. What the decorations in the store looked like, that was Sherry and me together. So what the mannequins, the models, and the print ad models looked like, that was all me. But the way the store looked and felt when you walked into it, and the way all the stores felt and looked when you walked into them, if she had been allowed to devote any time to them, they had all become really nice places because she knew what to do. She knew what to do. And I was just completely in the dark with that stuff. Anyway, this is exceptionally long. It's an exceptionally long little story. And I didn't mean to keep you on here this long. It might be too long to post, but I'm going to tell you this last thing. So Sherry and I worked together about a year and a half. Happy. Everywhere we went, everywhere together. There were times when I spent the night with her and Bill at their apartment at the Cloisters because we were just so wrapped up in what we were doing. We didn't even want to go to bed. We didn't want, and I would sleep on the couch and get up next morning and go back at it. And we had a fun time. And I've never had like a partner type relationship since then. Never in my business. Never had anything where I felt like I was in a partnership. Well, she left after about a year and a half. And the funny thing is that year and a half being with her had given me enough confidence because when she was going, I was like, well, what does this mean? Does this mean that now I'm going to have to go back and have her as a boss? And she said, no, this means that you're free to do whatever you want. We've done this. You can do this. Just take it. Nobody's going to change anything. Nobody's going to do anything. You can do what I did. You can do what you did. You'll be fine. And I was. And she went to work for this sweet, young design firm. They up and coming. It was her best friends. And it was like designing women, only they were all younger. And of course, the very first thing they did was say, Sammy, can you do this for us? Sammy, why don't we work on... So I felt like they were work family too. They felt like work family too. Anyway, we still, thick as thieves, all these years later, our lives went in different directions, but I will always look back at that period in 1984 as a real uptick in my life and in my career. And now at 23 minutes and 33 seconds, I will let you go, and this will be the test of whether I need to make just a bunch of really short little videos that aren't deep at all, or whether I need to go deep. If you're watching this, one of you two, or maybe one, if you're one person watching this, and you think that this is okay, I don't know, just say, yay, that's okay. If you think, okay, but you know what? I know that Omar will, because he always tells me, if you think that should be shorter, it's okay. Just say shorter. Anyway, or don't do anything. Just go back to what you're doing, which is probably watching, but not letting me know that you're watching, because deep down, we all want to look into each other's lives. And that's why YouTube even exists. I love you all. Happy Saturday. Might not even see you tomorrow, because this was 24 minutes and 29 seconds long. Goodbye.